Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a different video. This is late summer evening, so the sun is shining brightly through my window. There's going around on YouTube with a lot of sort of film collectors, 5 films that shaped my love for film. So people have been going through 5 films that have made them into sort of film lovers. So I've got mine to go through tonight. Maybe a little, not some of you might think, wow, that's a bit of a strange one, Joff, and some are pretty obvious. So I'm going to start with the obvious one that I spoke about in one of my recent pickup videos that I picked up on a collector's edition, and that is Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've kept that on there because it's holding on this J card, so that's why that's still on there. Yeah, this is a fantastic film. Jack Nicholson plays McMurphy. He's like a petty criminal, and he's been admitted to this sort of mental institution in America in the 1970s, where we have all different sort of people of different levels of sort of mental sort of capabilities, and this is pretty much probably what they did. They just bunged everyone together. I think the other option was for McMurphy to go to prison, and he didn't want to go to prison, so he accepted to go to this hospital for sort of rehabilitation. And we meet all the different sort of inmates in this sort of hospital, or patients, if you will, played by some fantastic actors: Brad Dourif, Christopher Lloyd, Danny DeVito. There's some amazing actors in the film, and he befriends a Red Indian chief in there, and it's really cool. And he starts to bring a lot of these patients out of themselves who have been quite defenseless about this sort of nurse who's a little bit of a bully. And in the end, they start sticking up for her and to her and stuff like this, and then the staff start rebelling against Jack Nicholson's character. It's a very it's a drama, and it's so well acted. It's brilliant. It will make you laugh, it will make you cry, and it will make you ashamed as well. It's one of those sort of films, and it's a fantastic film. I watched this when I was really young, because I was really into Jack Nicholson at the time when I was quite young. He did a couple of films that I adored. One called The Postman Always Rings Twice, which was fantastic, and he did another one which I can't remember. It's so long ago, but he did this, and he did The Shining and all that in the 70s, but this one stood out to me, and it was so well acted, and it was such a heavy sort of portrayal of like what it must have been like to be in one of these places in the 1970s. It was just spectacular, and it still stands with me today, hence why I own the collector's edition. I've got this on normal Blu-ray, so anyone interested in it, let me know, and I'll try and fathom out a way to get that sent to you, because I've got it on normal Blu-ray, which I no longer need because I've got this. So that's one of my favourite sort of films that shaped my love for movies. The second one is from one of my favourite genres, and it stars Clint Eastwood, and it's The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, a Western. Obviously, this is far from one of my favourite Western films, but this is about a video about films that I sort of really appreciate and sort of made my love for film, and this was one of them. Sergio Leone, who made loads of Italian films before he did these Man with No Name films. He did 3 of them, didn't he? He did this one, Fistful of Dollars, and for a few dollars more. But this one really stood out. It's quite a long film, and it's about Clint Eastwood plays this con man, and sort of like gunfighter, gunslinger, and he's working with another con man played by Lee Van Cleef. And then there's a Mexican guy with them, and they've sort of like fathomed out plans to sort of con people out of money and stuff. It's been in things go all pear-shaped and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool film. It's a fantastic sort of American version of the spaghetti western. Obviously, spaghetti westerns are Italian films, hence why they're called spaghetti westerns. But then the Americans sort of branched into the spaghetti western style of western, which were a lot more grittier than, say, your John Ford films, you know, and your John Wayne films, your Henry Ford, Fonda, those sort of films, you know, and your Cary Grant films. I was going to put High Noon in here, but I thought I'd put this one in because this one I remember watching it multiple times. Really, really cool. And it just fed my love for westerns in a way, and I fell in love with so many other westerns: Gunfight of OK Corral, High Noon, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and all these wonderful films, and it just sort of like made my eyes open to that genre, and then I started to fall in love with the Italian westerns, which are now my personal favourites, just because they're a lot more grittier and the stories are a little bit more complex than the American ones. The American ones were pretty much all the same, because a lot of the American ones were based upon Japanese samurai stories and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool, and this one holds a lot of memories. And it was Mike. I mean, I saw Clint Eastwood in many films before this. I saw him in, I mean, I know they're probably after this, but things like Dirty Harry and stuff, I sort of fell in love with first, and I really enjoyed those because I really liked cop films and stuff when I was really young. And then I got into westerns because my dad was into westerns, and this was one of the first ones that I really sort of like thought, man, this guy's cool. You know, he's really, really cool, and it's a cool film to watch. Really good, and they're getting 4K remasters at the moment with Arrow, so keep your eyes out for them. If you don't want them, and I recommend this box set, which contains all three of those films. It's pretty cool. So there we go. It's my second film that shaped my love for film. Next up is a comedy, a British Ealing comedy, and it's called Whiskey Galore. Again, I fell in love with this film when I was young. My mum told me all about it. She said, "Oh, you know, Geoff, you'll love this film. It's really cool." And I started to watch it, and it was really slow. And I just think, "What do you mean I love this? It's just nothing happening, you know, and stuff like this." But then you sort of see things in it, like about the characters and stuff. This is based on a period where in Scotland, this is based on an island off Scotland, and it's been confiscated that you're not allowed to drink whiskey or anything like that. I think it's probably post-war, something like this. And a shipwrecks on the coast of this island, and it's containing boxes and boxes of whiskey, craters of whiskey. So all the locals steal this whiskey. So then obviously the law of the main line come in looking for it, and they hide it everywhere, all around the island. It's all hidden around, it's even in the water and everything. It's really, really cool. It's really funny, really different for a film, and I really, really enjoyed this film. It's now out now on Studio Canal's Vintage Collection, and it is worth picking up because it is a classic British comedy from the Ealing studio. You know, Ealing in this sort of time were right on it for comedy, just like Hammer were for horror. You know, this company were on it for comedy. You know, you had so many good films. You know, the Lady Killers and all this amazing films. But this one was particularly my favourite, and I watched it quite a lot. Every time it was got on TV, normally on BBC Two, like over Christmas time, this would show up, and it made me look forward to watching it, and it made me really feel for the people. And it's one of the first films I really felt for the characters, and I think that's why it's an important film to me, because it made me look at films as being just more than just moving pictures. This is actually a story based on these people trying to preserve something they love that the government and law are trying to take away from them, which we're all trying to do now, right? So it's really, really cool. Definitely worth checking out. Whiskey Galore. Next up was a film that I saw a little bit later in my sort of film love. It come out in the 80s, so I was a little bit older now. I was probably about sort of 13, 14. Now, I used to go to the cinema a lot on my own. And there was two films that came out, I think the same year, that I got obsessed with. One of them was with Tom Conti and Rishi Sakamoto and David Bowie, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. But the other one was a true story, a very sort of heartwarming, positive, but extremely heartbreaking story. And it was Ben Kingsley in Gandhi. Again, this film, it came out, and I went to see it in the cinema about 4 times. I even took my mum to see it as well, because I went to see it on my own, and I just fell in love with it, just because of the story, the kindness of Mahatma Gandhi. Obviously, I'd not really heard of him until this film came out, and it made me read stuff about Mahatma Gandhi and what he did for the independence of India from British rule, and I didn't know anything of that until this film. And so this is another marvelous thing about film. This taught me that there are things that are true on these films that are worth looking out at, and this was fantastic. Ben Kingsley was absolutely amazing. This won 8 Oscars, this film. That's how good it was. It was a fantastic portrayal. Quite a long film. It's directed by Richard Attenborough, who also directed one of my favourite serial killer films, 10 Rillington Place, as well as starring in it. He's a great director and really cool sort of actor, and he's just, his love of film comes across, and you can see the passion that was put into this film because of Richard Attenborough. So he made me appreciate true stories and made me want to find out more about it. And he brought the true story to life in Gandhi. So it's fantastic. So that's another film that shaped my love for film, and that's Gandhi. And last but not least, no horrors in this. So you're thinking, what? You're a horror freak? Yes, I am. I'm an absolute horror fan, and that's where my heart lays. But when you're younger, horror films are not as prevalent as a lot of other films were. Most of them were Certificate X in the cinema, so I couldn't go and see them. But a lot of these films were. That's a PG. That's a PG. Yes, okay. These two I had to wait to get them on VHS, and I think I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest I've seen Good, Bad, the Ugly and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on TV and stuff like this, so they were more acceptable then. But horror films weren't prevalent around. They just wasn't there. I mean, I love my Hammer films, but they didn't make me into a film lover. These are the films that did. And the last one is The Odessa File with Jon Voight. Again, another film, I think lightly based on a true story, based on Jon Voight and his search for a man that was of war crimes in the concentration camps in World War II, who turns out to be his father. And he's going looking for him in Munich and places like that in Germany. And it's a sort of spy thriller in a way, because there's people following Jon Voight as he's investigating this, because they don't want him getting too close to these war criminals because they're in hiding. But he's investigating it to try and find out about this guy, this one guy, and stuff like this. And it's an incredible film, and it's a real sort of like jaw-dropping film. It does contain some scenes of the concentration camp, but not graphically like Schindler's List or anything like that. This is a bit more reserved. There are some clips there to indicate, you know, the atrocities that were done there, and because he's reading through the Odessa file. It's him sitting at his desk reading this file about things that have gone on, and we cut to clips from back in the concentration camp days, and then we follow him on his search for the guy that he's looking for. Anyway, so that is another film that I used to watch all the time. Jon Voight was again a very popular actor in the sort of 70s. We had him in The Champ, we had him in Midnight Express, and he was in the Odessa File. And that one was such a hard-hitting film for me at my age. Bit of a slow burn, but really, really cool. And they are my 5 titles that I pick for 5 films that have made me into a film lover. There are other films I was thinking of putting in here. Obviously, High Noon, Gorky Park, and Taste the Blood of Dracula. But they're the ones that I went to because I thought I wanted to pick ones that, when I was young, really hit me and really had an effect on me. And these did. Even the comedy, Whiskey Galore, it had a hit on me because it made me appreciate the characters of film. Really, really cool. Cheers, guys.